I'm Debbie Pearson with Women's Self Mastery, and we've been talking about mastering your boundaries. And so far, we've talked about a variety of boundaries. The first four are physical, emotional, sexual, and spiritual. Today, we're going to talk about material boundaries, which are a little bit different from physical. And we're going to talk about a combined one called time and energy. So the question I'd like to start out with is, how do you feel when someone takes something that belongs to you? This would be the materialistic things, okay? So this isn't your physical personal body. This would be like a stapler from your desk, and they don't return it, and a sweater from your closet, money from your purse, if it's your children. Hopefully it's just your children. So, some people like literally have no issue with this. Like, let people do whatever they want, or I'm fine. I have no boundaries. What's mine is yours. If I love you, I'm wide open. And for other people, it makes our blood boil. So what is that all about? Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons for that different energy. And we're going to talk a little bit about that next time. Well, we'll talk more about that next time. But right now, I'm going to talk about what are material boundaries, right? So these are items that belong to you, or they're in your care. Maybe you are the custodian of records at your job, and if people come and they mess with that, that's reflective of you, or it messes with your responsibility, and so you're challenged with that. If it's something at your home, it may be very different. It may be like, oh, I don't care if my mother, sister, friend, cousin, whatever. If I love you, you're welcome to borrow whatever I have. And for other people, it's like, you can borrow it, but please ask me about it, right? So why do we have such a variety of different ways of responding to that? And when it is yours or you're responsible for it, you can choose to lend it or not. It's really kind of up to yours. But it's how do you feel when it's taken without your consent, right? Do you feel violated? Do you feel challenged? And the same thing goes with these non-physical, this combo boundary, time and energy, which I'm not really sure why they were combined, but they were, so we're just going to go with it. This isn't my work specifically. This is the work of Jack Russell, Glenda Otto from the Center for Self-Sustaining Leadership, and Darlene Lancer. You can find her online at darlenelancer.com, and I cannot remember her connection with this. Apologies. But it's the two of those combined, and I'm reporting these to you. So time and energy is a boundary that many people don't necessarily realize gets violated, maybe, if you will, or challenged almost daily. It's how do I spend my time, and how do I allow others to interrupt that time? Is it okay? When people ask you to stop what you're doing to help them do something for themselves, we can have a sense of, I want to be of service to another person, but we can also have a feeling of, it's overwhelming. I've got so much I'm committed to, and this person is stopping me from doing my job. And so it's very uncomfortable. So it is normal and natural for people to ask you for help, but it's also not always so normal or natural for you to say, hang on a second, I have to honor me, my time, and my energy, as well as wanting to be of service to other people. So how do we handle something like that? So let's say you have the right to complete your project, to eat your lunch, to take a break. If you're on a break, and it's a genuine break because you've been working for 3 hours, you're like, I got to take a break, got to clear my head. And someone's like, come and look at this and help me with this. That may be a challenge for you in that moment. It doesn't mean that you take every single situation and apply the exact same rules. It just means you have the right to, when it's appropriate for you. And you will learn what's appropriate over time, because it's like, how you feel, right? Okay. So if you're in the middle of something, you can say something like, hey, could you give me 20 minutes and I'll be able to help you. You don't have to jump up right away, right? Somebody asks you to do something, you're like, hey, I'm already committed for that time. What about another time? And then go from there. It's like, another one was, this I remember personally. I had a boss who decided that it was easier to yell to me to help her figure things out than for her to take any initiative on her own. Debbie, how do you spell some word? And I was a good speller, blah, 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 blah. And so she just started yelling for me. How do you spell this? How do you spell that? What's so-and-so's phone number? How do I find this? How do I find that? It was like there was this very strange sensation of imposition, actually. Like, how do I get my work done if I'm practically doing her work for her? Right. So, what happens a lot of times is when we're in childhood, we are not really taught to recognize or set boundaries, right? If it didn't work for the other person for us to have boundaries, there weren't any boundaries. And we are kind of at the mercy of the people who raise us. So if they were raised without boundaries and they come into the household and they're raising you, they may just make that assumption. Look, just the way it is. Nobody has boundaries. We're a family. Ta-da! And that's it. So it can be very challenging. But what I want you to take away from this conversation is, regardless, this may be challenging for some of you, regardless of how you were raised or what, or how your, I'll say relative, may respond to you saying, I'm going to set up a boundary. You have the right to set up a boundary. I'll even say, I don't care who it is, your spouse, partner, your parents, your children, you have the right to set boundaries. You are important. Period. The end. Now, how you set a boundary, the way you set a boundary, if it's loving boundaries, if it's healthy boundaries, there's conditions to it. There's reasonableness to it. There's healthiness to it, but you have the right to set boundaries. And so what I find is there are a lot of people that don't set boundaries because we think that we should override our needs for the pleasure of other people. So the other person may be demanding or controlling or criticizing. They may be pushy or abusive or invasive, or they may plead, please, 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 mom, or, whatever. Or they may be super sweet, honey's dripping from their mouth. And so we think we need to comply. And in my area of expertise, we have a term for it, and it's called, it's about fear and love. And dang it, I can't believe I just lost the phrase. But it's loving from a place of fear, where we think we're being loving, but we're really not. If I think of the phrase, I'll say it here in a minute. But it's like, say your kid, please, 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 mom, please, please, can I go? 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 You internally know that you should not let them go, but they get beg, 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 beg. And you think, if I don't let them go, they're not going to love me. And so you let them go do something, whatever it is, right? So again, we'll get into more of that, I think, the next one. But just to go back to when we were children, however we were raised, we had no choice about whether or not boundaries could be asserted. We just had to live in the house we were in. But now that we've been away from home for I don't know how many years, so just assume, just for easy numbers, if you were 20-ish when you left home and you're now 40, you've been gone for 40 years. You've been an adult for 20 years. If you're like me and you're over 60, like I've been an adult for over 40 years, close to 45 years, right? I get to choose because I consider myself important enough. You do the same. I'm mastering who I am. I am putting myself into a place of self-mastery. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just choosing that what's most important to me, what feels most correct and most right for me, that I'm willing to set boundaries about that. One situation that I had was meeting a friend I had not seen in a very, very, very long time. And this person being very pushy about what they wanted versus respecting my choices. And I found myself feeling so uncomfortable that I just didn't really want to spend time with that person anymore, because there was no respect for my boundaries. I have a feeling if I would say, hey, you're violating my boundaries, that this person would be like, boundaries, what are you talking about? I could be wrong, but it's like, I get to choose. Do I want to spend time with someone who's not respecting my boundaries? And the answer for me is no. I'd rather be a little more lonely. Not that I'm lonely, but I just don't feel the need to spend time with somebody who's not going to respect my boundaries. That's a choice I get to make. And I love it because it makes my life, I feel way more free than feeling uncomfortable in a situation where I'm like, oh gosh, if I don't pretend, or I shouldn't even say pretend, but if I don't participate with this person, they may get upset. It may hurt their feelings. What about my feelings? Why do I need to feel so uncomfortable so that someone else feels okay or good, especially when what they're doing is unhealthy? All right, some food for thought there, you guys. All right, so let's see if I got everything that I wanted to cover. Oh, next week we're going to be talking about why don't we set boundaries? Why don't we do it? Why don't we set a boundary, right? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Probably a few of them you'll be like, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. But there might be one or two where you're like, very interesting. So, hope you'll join me next week when I talk about in part 6, why don't we set boundaries? All right, you may be surprised at some of the answers. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. That's it for now, you guys. And I am Debbie Pearson, helping you to master yourself and your emotions. Until next time.